start to endanger the library. And I'm fortunate to have 3 trustees here, very supportive group of trustees, so I don't know if any of them would like to say anything. Would like to ask any questions. Trustee Chair Laurentian.
I just wanted to mention if we use that certification, we also use state aid.
Yes, we use state aid. We get about $15,000.
Quite a bit of money. And I know this town voted to override Proposition 2.5 to refurbish the library, and it's sort of a jewel in the center of town. And once you lose any part of that, it's very hard to get the funds restored and to bring it back to what it was.
I feel like it would be a devastating time.
Thank you, Helena.
Thank you.
Oh, you have a question?
Yeah. Ellie, did you know roughly what percentage of books and DVDs, etc., are done within a library alone rather than books that are directly owned by the town library?
Well,
Is it a large chunk?
It's a good chunk. I mean, and the thing is, sometimes it's a book that we already own, but the way the system works, you know, some of our copies out, we get it from Andover. It's a little complicated, but it doesn't mean it's not necessarily in the book. I don't have that effect. It's about 700 or 800 a month that our residents borrow through interlibrary. And also, they go to other libraries, physically walk in and check out books, and that would be able to do that. You could go in and read a book in there, but you couldn't take it.
I want to say this. Alina and her staff do a fabulous job. The reason why these numbers are up here is it sort of demonstrates the strait that we're in, associated with how do we get money to the school and where it might come from and the impact of it, so that everybody has an opportunity to look at the severity of this issue. This is not, you know, some kind of a game where we need more money and we're just going to go up for a moment. We have to seriously think about what's on the table here and what we have to do. The board's got a pretty hard decision to make, as you probably imagine here, in terms of what we can do and what's fair and what makes sense and what's best for the community. I see Gene is helping us out here. Anybody else have a question on the library? Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm very interested in the library, and we use it quite frequently in our home. My name is Jim Perkins, and I live at 22 Vernon Street. And my question is, what are the criteria or the standards that are used to decide or determine certification? Is it the amount of money, or is it the staffing? What exactly is it?
It's 2 things. It's the number of hours open and a percentage of the town budget, I believe, that's spent, you know, that's put out.
So what is the percentage?
I don't know the exact
How
number.
much money would it take in order to keep the library open? I mean,
Well,
to maintain your certification.
The municipal appropriation requirement for coming FY09 is $427,230.
Yeah, but they're only cutting it half. So if you had, so it was 250,000 before you had certification.
No.
So
There's less than, Jim, there's less than $25,000 worth of wiggle room in the current budget proposal to get you below the necessary certification level. It was like $19,000.
That's actually
It's less than that. It's less than 10.
About 5,000.
Yeah, I just want to.
Marcy Bailey is.
I'm sorry.
Let's let Marcy say something.
Let me
Mrs. Bailey.
Thank you. Marcy Bailey, Vice Chair of the Library Board of Trustees. The way the municipal appropriation requirement is calculated is the average of the budget for the past 3 years plus 2.5% of that average. And that gets you to the municipal appropriation requirement, which is one component that allows certification. The second component is the number of hours open, and that's based on population of the town. For North Reading, the minimum is 40 hours, and so that's the hour component. And the minimum, I think Helena said, was about $430,000 for this year, and that's the average of the past 3 fiscal years' budgets plus 2.5%. We have about $5,000 where we could cut and still make that requirement this year. Beyond that, you risk losing certification, especially if you take a disproportionate cut to the library budget compared to other town budgets. If everything is cut proportionately, sometimes you can apply to the state and ask for a waiver. They I think, Helena, allow a limited number of waivers. But does that answer the question? That's how it
I
works.
was curious about the amount of money, and what you're telling me is that it's 450,000 compared to what they're going to receive.
It's about 430, so that's about, that's a little less than a third of it maybe, but it would take you below.
The cutting of numbers, hours in half affects staff. They still have to heat the building, maintain it, etc. That's why it's not a 50-50 savings, okay? Anything else in the library before we go on? Yes, Helena?
There's just one, but there's another part to it. You're supposed to spend a certain percentage of the entire budget on books.
16.
In our case, it's 16.
Thank you. Next item on the list was filling a position in the treasurer's office, and I'll leave that to Mr. Pizarro.
Just standing in the basketball net show.
You notice the deer in the headlight looks.
Good evening, Joseph Tassoni, Finance Director. Currently, our Treasurer's Collector's Office is in a state of transition. Our former treasurer has moved on to another municipality. And we did the right thing. We promoted within. We had qualified people in the office. And everybody, we had somebody capable right in our own, right in the office that we made treasurer collector. She was at one time doing payroll. One of the clerks up front that serves the public that collects their taxes was moved up to do payroll, and right now we're operating one person shop in that office. This week we had a situation where one of the clerks has been very sick and required hospitalization. And what that meant was that we fell behind 2 days, or all of this week, in processing your payments that you send in by mail. So right now, sitting in our vault are 2 days of payments that have been sent in by the taxpayers. Now, that number one hurts our cash flow. It also violates any internal control principles that should be followed, meaning whenever cash is turned over, it should be deposited into the bank. We're not doing that. I think this would really devastate the department, as all these cuts were. None of us were really, Selena had mentioned, really prepared to defend the budget tonight, but we're doing the best we can. Other than that, that's really all I have to say about that one position. If anybody wants to add anything to that, or if anybody wants to ask me any questions.
Again, Joe's department and the treasurer's office are very hard in the interest of the town. And again, these proposed service cuts are not aimed at a vendetta against anybody, but trying to deal with the problems we have. Next item, Committee Planning Commission Office. Warren?
Thanks, Bob. Everybody, all of the department heads obviously already looked at all these budgets, and they've done everything they can to make these things work. But you do have to be careful where you cut, because, for example, the library, if you cut, you lose accreditation. There are things that you could lose you might not want to lose. If I'm correct on this, Bob, since I don't have that in front of me, this cut would remove our part-time planner.
I believe that's the position, correctly.
I think that's what it is. But the part-time planner was hired to replace our GIS coordinator, who is responsible for all of the beautiful maps and all of the mapping and the locations of things that we get in any of the departments need when they need that kind of thing for engineering or for DPW or anybody like that, especially for the planning board. It's a provides us with actual map locations of projects, sites and projects that we're working on. The planning board's primary job is subdivision control and site plan review of commercial developments. And that's a pretty big job. There's a lot of stuff. There's always something going on that can keep us pretty busy, and it can keep the planning administrator pretty busy. On top of that, that $1.2 million that you saw was a result of the planning administrator's work in putting together that 40R expeditiously. We were the second one in the state to qualify for it. We also, as a result of her working on grants, we got $150,000 for our 43D, which is expedited permitting process that we put into place. And that money went into the town to help upgrade computer systems for our inspectional services and for other town hall functions. So $25,000 that funds that part-time person gives that planning administrator the time to do these kind of things, to do these grants. And it certainly seems like a small amount of money invested for the return. So, like everybody, we've looked at our budget, and we would take the hit if we had to, but I think that the loss to the town as a whole, as in many of these other situations, might far exceed the money that we take out. Thank you.
Dr. Stats here? Didn't see you back there.
Get it seen wherever we can. As many of the other speakers have said, none of us were prepared with any information. This is the first that we've seen the cuts as well. Speaking for all of the departments, it will be hard for everybody to take a hit. We all depend on each other, and the public depends on us. We are, service-oriented. What one department does impacts another. I get services from the GIS person in Warren's office to produce the census maps that I need, to do the Census 2000, the federal Census 2000. I would be at a loss without that assistance. So, when we speak about cuts to departments, it impacts everybody. We don't run singularly in our own departments, and we run for the benefit of all of you in the town as well to provide our services. The position that's earmarked here seems a little high to me in the money. I'm not sure, Mr. Valgaconis, which position it is in my office, but no matter what.
Barbara, some of those positions included people who knew their benefits, so that might be a little
Okay.
different.
All right. It might be another discussion because the money in my mind doesn't work out, but I understand the premises of a position. Of course, we are a public service office. We're not a money-making office. We don't issue permits that raise a lot of money. We're there for you. We're there statutorily. We must provide the services under state law. The state law dictates almost entirely every function that we do. We run the elections, we run the town meetings, we maintain the vital records for all of the citizens, we issue the marriage licenses, and we provide certifications of records for all the town boards and committees, to the Department of Revenue, to the Attorney General's office, to numerous state agencies. It goes on and on. Every action that the town takes, basically, from every board and committee comes through our office. Our files are overflowing. Board of Appeals certifications, I can name every department in the building, and it runs through our office. The impact will be slow service. We have statutorily 10 days to turn around public record requests for the general public. Of course, we pride ourselves in doing that much quicker. We generally have a 24-hour turnaround. That would necessarily be impacted, especially during statutory requirements of running elections and town meetings, things like that. There's basically two functions that we perform in our office now that aren't dictated statutorily, and that is passport services, which is something we just took on about 3 years ago, and selling fishing and sporting and wildlife licenses, which really is at the benefit to the citizens. It's not a moneymaker, certainly, at $1.50 a license. It takes us much more time to write out the license and do the monthly report for them, any gain we get, but we do it as a public service. Of course, something like that